This video is sponsored by Bungie? If you know me, you know I love my raids. You also know that I love my day one raids. If you really know me, you know that I love a game called Hollow Knight. In this game, you play as a cute little bug with a nail, and you need to search your way through a hollow nest of bugs and eventually defeat the sun. The reason I brought up this game, well, in the Godmaster DLC for Hollow Knight sits the hardest trial of them all, the Pantheon, a boss rush gauntlet with changes to the fights and some new bosses exclusive to it. At the beginning, the boss rush isn't too bad, but by the end, you will need to defeat 42 bosses in a row, including a harder version of the sun god named Radiance. Oh, and if you die and have to reset, you will start from the very beginning. This is the sort of reaction I had when I finally beat it. Oh! Oh, my heart! Holy shit! Oh! See, I say all of this not just because Destiny is using the same name for its raid boss gauntlet, but because right when I played the Hollow Knight Pantheon, I immediately wanted some version for Destiny. Raid bosses have always had the sauce when it came to boss encounter design. But how do you form something like Pantheon for 6 players, and how do you make old encounters freshly new again? Well, at least for a limited time, Bungie absolutely nailed it. I am not joking when I say the worst part of Pantheon is that it is limited time, because this is endgame Destiny, and this is the sauce I've been hoping for from an endgame activity. So in this video, we go deep on the Pantheon, from the new changes, the creator event that I got to be a part of, competing for a real-life giant falling guillotine. We'll talk about some weird mechanics unique to the event, and finally, I will save my very personal thoughts on it for the very end of this video, and I ranked every single boss based off of the changes and the challenge they provided. So, timestamps on the screen, let's get into it. I want to quickly say a big shout out to Bungie for sponsoring this video. As we know, the Light and Dark saga for this 10-year journey of Destiny is coming to an end. And while that isn't the end of Destiny, it is a big moment for the series. I was in high school when this game came out, and now I'm almost 27. Am I dying soon? With that being said, there is no better time to jump into the series. Using features like Fireteam Finder to find the crew to work together through the most challenging content to get ready for the final shape. There's no better time to get into Destiny as well, as it's available on PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, and the Epic Games Store, and comes with crossplay and cross-progression. You can check my link down below to buy the final shape for yourself if you plan to jump in. Thanks again to Bungie for sponsoring this video. I never thought this would happen, and enjoy the video, everyone. For this video, I'm going to assume that you know the regular raid boss encounters. This is very much a community video for Pantheon, more so than an explanation of the regular fights or a guide. What I will do is add cards to the video where you can watch the other raid videos detailing each encounter, but this one isn't really focused on that. The Pantheon was released a few weeks ago, and in true Destiny fashion, it dropped in a week-by-week format, starting with the power level keeping players under 5 levels. That's not too bad, right? Well, by the final 2 weeks, it was -20, so almost the new contest difficulty. I think it was safe to say that a lot of people questioned what Pantheon would be like, especially if we not only have a raid boss gauntlet, but most raids have a master mode, where it's mostly the same encounters, but with champions and no added mechanics. In Destiny 1, players were so used to some additional mechanics added to the hard mode raids, and even Destiny 2 experimented with this too. Thankfully, Pantheon had fun modifiers and not just champion spam. In fact, Bungie listened to a lot of player feedback and ditched the champions in favor of something more menacing to deal with. So we start off with Golgy, and man, this boss was one I really didn't know what could change. Was it the damage? Was it the orbs? Was there going to be 2 Golgy? I think Bungie ended up just dipping their toes here, introducing Shaxx' scoring system, knights coming out of the doors on the sides, an ogre out of this tiny little door, Don't ask how he got there. His normal route to work had an accident and he got lost and somehow ended up here. You will find this pretty common with Pantheon. Not the ogre thing, but everything else. A lot of the encounters are more communicative changes. And what I mean by this is, well, just have a look.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
That one.
See on the other side.
This one.
See, Golgoroth's big change is during the damage. Here, for the players in the pit, 2 of them will get the Cursed Thrall effect, so communicating which sides of the boss the players are going to are important, as one timer ends just before the other one, so you can actually kill each other with the buff. This does create more damage against Golgy, thus making the encounters easier if you're ready for it, but I know a lot of players who just plain do not talk to each other during these fights, so this was tough for them. For the other portion of damage, players who are gaze holders had to watch out for invisible minotaurs, which could also affect your runs. Now, Golgy being Golgy also had some funky bugs that I know I ran into.
Oh, okay.
Whoa! Oh my god, that's... Oh my god! Oh my god! What the f is that?
No, not that one. Things like this. Overall, Golgy, even in the -20 setting, was the intro boss for a reason. Moving into the next boss, and this one is one of my favorites of all time for a reason. Caretaker is just a team-oriented raid boss. Everyone is doing something here. Unless you're Snazzy Rock, then you just solo the entire encounter. But normally, everyone is involved. Most teams pulled out a weapon I haven't heard from in years, with Grand Overture becoming the main choice. But why? Well, when you proc missiles off of hits from the normal gun, even if the enemy is immune, you can get ×20 missiles off of the immune boss. Step 2 is changing the firing mode for the boss when there's just a little bit of health left for the threshold, to push for a 2 floor of damage instead of 3, which is what most of the community opts for. For the changes in Caretaker, well, there's not a lot. There's enemies that spawn during stunning part of the boss, there's an extra bee or 2 in the symbol room, and there's now taken ogres that spawn on the sides. But this fight is mostly the same, and these changes didn't affect a ton even on -20. That still didn't stop some shenanigans from happening though.
Nice, Speg. Nice job, Cross. Yep. This, I'm gonna get hit that time, see if you can get behind him. He's
I almost got booted.
There's a bee!
There we go.
What is it?
Careful with invading darkness. You're gonna need to shoot those.
Invading darkness?
Yeah, that's the acorns.
Oh my god, I'm getting... I died. I'm terrible.
No, you're not.
I granted his overture.
Oh my god, you guys are bad too.
What the f? Teammate?
I was joking.
That is not very XQCL vibes. Of
Yeah, like...
I'm so sorry, guys.
You
I
are
don't
not
like
my
this one.
juicer. My juicer would never.
Planets, or Explicator, or Macrocosm, whatever you want to call this encounter, it was nothing but hell. And the first bump up in difficulty that I could really feel. There were such small changes, but with a massive outcome. Normally, you read the planets and call out the odd one out. From the number system, to left, right, top, to fast food restaurants, all the way to... And the problem is, the boss spawns tornadoes from his iPad on a random plate. You might not think this is a big deal, but any player who stepped into Pantheon, yeah, they know. When tornadoes weren't claiming lives, the tormentor that would spawn in the middle would. And those Colossus, yeah, just don't get in their way. Finally, a small yet significant change was the addition of incendiors on the sides of the room. If these weren't communicated to be killed, they would ruin runs left and right. Again, communication was the key to get through, and as difficulty kept ramping up and up and up, so too did the death count. For the creator event, for example, week 2, my team had a modifier for winning week 1, so there were no solar subclasses allowed. which meant no healing grenades and no Well of Radiance. And yeah, we died a lot. But ultimately, if you got the right surge, this boss got cooked.
3, 2, 1, go.
Great job, guys. Oh, yeah.
That was the other thing about Pantheon. It came with surges, which is not a luxury day one raids get, but it's the perfect way to keep a fun event like Pantheon feeling like an event. There was even unique modifiers to Pantheon. You had classy warfare from using class abilities stacking 3 times for damage resist and damage, and shot caller, which meant you do more damage from doing critical hits on the enemy with a primary weapon. These surges and new modifiers would come to be important against our next boss, and the final one for the first week, Atraks 1. Atraks was one of the coolest day one encounters of all time, with falling guillotine being used for the first clears. Now, it has been 4 years since Atraks was released, and things have changed. Are you feeling a little old yet that this raid has been out for 4 years? Oh my god. The method every team I have seen use is the exotic Parasite, sort of similar to the Grand Overture, but Parasite requires kills to feed the worm, and not hits to build it. Parasite is great because Atraks isn't a boss you can just keep dealing damage to. Instead, a quick burst of damage. So the plan most teams agree upon is counting down your supers, then popping them, then shooting Parasite by hitting the replication in a very tight window. Now, the changes here are very minimal. There's more enemies, the scanner and operator now have boss health bars, and a tormentor spawns on the bottom, then teleports upstairs soon after. There is still some goofy Atraks jank.
Hop in the room. Hop in the room. Yep. Got you, bro.
Is it good?
Yep. Swap to lament, everybody.
Yeah.
This comms.
Middle.
Hey, what the? How'd you die?
3, 2, 1, go.
I don't know.
One save.
What?
You'll see the clip, bro.
You guys gotta hit him.
But if there's one great discovery, it was through solo runs of the boss. See, you don't really need the scanner augment. If you have a gun that does a little bit of damage, and you don't pass the damage threshold of Atraks, you can actually do a quick burst that will visibly display the real one's health bar on the bottom. Operator can also shoot the augment off their own head with ricochet round weapons. I found Atraks to be the glass cannon encounter, as getting the perfect run was easy and all, but even one death could mess up your whole run, especially at -20. Every once in a while, some shenanigans could happen too.
I got cooked.
We're okay, we're okay.
I'm dying a tormentor.
Oh, whoa, we're going up. We're going up.
Tormentor! Wait, what?
Atraks remains one of my favorite encounters for a reason, but part of me still misses the guillotine day one loadouts. She just gets baked now. Now that was it for week 1 and the first quest of the Pantheon. With an emblem, craftable raid weapons, adept raid weapons, and a raid exotic of your choice for the quest, the rewards for Pantheon weren't necessarily new, but they were the best possible ways for players to catch up on the RNG raid exotics they were missing and get craftable weapons for the final shape. Especially if you were a free-to-play player. I mean, think about being a free-to-play player and getting all of these raid weapons and seeing these encounters. That was a steal alone. And this was only the first week. For the creator event, I can happily say that this is where we went up 1-0 in a very close finish and pure chill locking it in by the end. The next boss up for the -10 version of the Pantheon was Oryx the Exalted. This boss had some really great changes that sort of tease future encounter changes. So if you don't know, Oryx is normally a long fight with a decent amount of waiting time for the stun and for the damage. So Bungie kept the Light Eater Knights coming. Light Eaters can be annoying, especially without ammo, but with a solid arc weapon like Indebted Kindness from the new dungeon, the Knights aren't too bad. What is fun and spicy is another Tormentor. Seriously, these guys just keep showing up in raid encounters. But the biggest change was 2 shades of Oryx. What's scarier than 1 Oryx? How about 2 Oryxes? Oryxes? Or I? The 2 shades may look scary, but Whisper of the Worm was the main damage for Oryx and the main way to take out the shade. In this week, the other team did end up just smoking Oryx, making that almighty world's first sword tied 1-1. But Vengeance was coming in the form of getting kicked in the face. Rhulk, Pantheon, -15 was up next. All the same bosses from before, but ending with Rhulk changes. In the original fight, one of the biggest pieces of feedback was that the first half wasn't very entertaining compared to the second. So Bungie added tormentors. Okay, at least they make a ton of sense here. Tormentors spawned in 3 total, but only 2 if you were fast about your dunks. Hell, I've even heard 1, but that could just be the community telling lies. Sometimes the Tormentor would be funky too.
One, both close.
Oh, perfect. I'll get that one.
Last dunks. Oh, early.
I'm sorry, did anybody see that Tormentor?
Where'd he go?
He jumped off the map. He's gone.
That's fine. That's fine. It's fine. Just swap, please.
What was awaiting you on top was Pontiff Sullivan. Rhulk and Shadow Rhulk.
Excuse me?
There's 2 Rhulks.
Oh!
No! Stay calm, stay calm.
Shadow Rhulk was one of the best possible changes Bungie could have made. It is literally just Rhulk, but all he does is kick you in the face, leading to moments where your whole team gets kicked instead. Shadow Rhulk and Rhulk claimed so many lives here, and the main constant takeaways were that the Destiny community just loves getting kicked in the face by big skinny red aliens, because oh my gosh, I have never seen more deaths than in one room. The best way I learned to navigate the room was to just unscope when doing damage, and pay attention to my radar. If Shadow Rhulk was close, I would just run away. Otherwise, Rhulk felt like day 1 Rhulk in some ways, where Final Stand was intense, and you really needed to save your supers for the final, or again, death. Now, some people in the community have opted to find other ways to get rid of Rhulk.
For this strat, you have everyone stay back. You enter the arena to get him to charge at this particular point. Then quickly get to the stairs. The stairs bottom right edge, but still in the zone, about 6 stairs down from the top. The boss will charge at you and fly off.
For the creator event, it went a little bit like this.
Come on, push.
Wait, my way the horde, please. Please, my way the horde.
We killed him. We did it.
Holy shit!
You're not holy shit.
It's crazy.
Let's go!
Yellow had a window horn down.
He burned out.
Yellow had a window horn on him.
We're done. Let's go!
Double yellow.
Yellow shot a Wither Horde buzzer beater to beat the other team by 17 seconds.
Let's go! Let's go! Yeah! We locked it in, boys! Let's go! They just won? No shot.
I gotta be honest, since I live with, if I heard Evan scream like about.
You guys were 20 seconds behind them.
No!
I heard Evan scream when we
Way
were
to
starting.
catch up. Okay,
I
so
knew.
no, but they wiped. But Yellow had a.
It was that close. And Rhulk was everything I wanted and then some from a fight. The first half is more involved with Tormentors and Wizards. The second half has twice the kicks, and Final Stand felt as close to day 1 as I could possibly ask for. Now that was just -15. We still have 1 more week, and this time, 2 bosses instead of 1. For the time window of 2 weeks, and for now, Godslayer was available. 4 emblems total, with the final one being a collage of the different Pantheon bosses in one. And this time, you just needed to defeat legit Riven. Yeah, the Destiny community finally got a taste of legit Riven. Not necessarily a taste of -40 power levels, Whisper of the Worm for damage meta, even though the boss is resistant to snipers, and no damage resist at all on the armor. But still, this is the closest the Destiny community can get in 2024, and I am all for it. Riven for so many years has been reduced to a sliver of cheese, and now you can't do damage to her claws, and on the first 2 floors, she still has insane damage resist. The changes here outside of fixing the joining allies spot to go upstairs were the added minotaurs on the floors and the taken phalanxes when falling down. Other than that, Bungie basically said, do legit Riven. And as someone who loves legit Riven, it was beautiful all over again. Now the fail condition on Riven is what makes it tough. Not getting to the top floor in time for stuns, shooting the wrong eyes early, and when the main damage begins on the top, shooting the wrong eye or getting booped would just end it. There wasn't even a change on Final Stand either, which made me a little sad, but I get it. Bungie's intention and test of Riven was clearly to get people to do the mechanics, and Riven, now that I've done it legit so many times, feels kind of like Oryx, where as long as you know the mechanics and you're doing them correctly, the damage is almost impossible to mess up. This is where my team took the lead after some unfortunate wipes from the other team on the Creator Clear. Taken Barrier and Transcendent Blessings come in clutch. Finally, the final God of Pain really felt like one after all. After all of the criticism from the community, self included, the critiques from people outside of the community, I mean hell, even Moist Critical made a video roasting Nezzy, Bungie would step up the difficulty of Nez even more. Now his AI still didn't really change, so good luck getting consistent damage on Nez or not dying, but other than that, yeah, the room is chaos. Aside from normal Nez AI stuff, this time the Colossus on both sides is shielded fully with light or dark, making runners have to kill the Colossus across the room before continuing. That, or you could just blinding nade them to death. After that, it was dealing the extra enemy spawns, the random shots of darkness on a safe haven plate, and for safe measure, Bungie spawned in 2 Tormentors during damage. This was truly time to lock in. And I can say handily that after my team started way behind the other team, I mean, we were stuck at Atraks when the other team got to Riven. This is where we took the lead and, well, after only a few attempts, got the God Run and clutched up.
Pants, lucky pants, lucky pants.
Well. Who's got this? Debuff. Div. Nighthawk.
Reloading div.
I have so much heavy. Just keep going, guys. We're chilling.
Keep
Healing
going.
nade it off feet.
Goldie, let's go!
Nice. Did we actually do it?
Holy shit.
Please tell me you're lying.
I think we got it.
The sword was ours. And I can say, even though this part of the story is small and irrelevant to a lot of you guys, this was kind of a win that I'm proud of. From 36 on DSC. Oh yeah, baby. To casting day 1 raids and now winning a big sword, I'm pretty happy. Nez, on the other hand, was an absolute nightmare for most teams, and will be the final roadblock for a lot of people trying to clear for the Godslayer title. Before I get ahead of myself though, I think it's time I rank every single encounter based on the changes and the difficulty. And of course, I need to give some thoughts on the activity as a whole. So, the Pantheon, as of recording this video, has about a week and some change left. And after spending a lot of time in Pantheon, I can confidently say this is how raids were meant to be experienced. My channel is known for recapping day 1 raid races, and now people can experience a taste of what it's like in a more arcade setting. I forgot how much of a challenge these monumental raid bosses were, and now they're back to feeling like day 1 again. I really want Bungie to do something about Pantheon in the future and master raids too. Now, not to armchair dev or anything, but if it were up to me, I would personally remove craftable weapons from raids, especially since you can enhance adept weapons anyway, and you get 2 slots on the drops. Plus, Pantheon does load you with spoils. Next, I would add the Pantheon mechanics to the master raids, or just remove master altogether and choose encounters from new raids to add to Pantheon. I would love it if Bungie could add shiny variants to Pantheon too, but I know I'm just coping with that one. I think this is a great activity, maybe even the greatest since raids came out in general. But we can't just stop at a small taste of it. We need Pantheon to stay or come back even stronger. That being said, I would be lying if I said that each of them got the update treatment the way that others did. And I know to that person in my comments, this boss was your favorite because of reasons individual to you. But we all know I'm right when it comes to raid bosses. Thank you very much. So it's time to rank them based off of the changes and the difficulty. In the number 8 slot, we have Atraks. Look, there is almost nothing changed here. And even on the hardest difficulty, this boss just gets run over. At first, my team strategized keeping 3 on the bottom and 3 on the top, but this just isn't day 1 anymore, and Atraks just takes so much damage from burst weapons. Yes, the addition of Tormentors is fine, but you can either push them off if you spawn them in the middle, or you can save the servitor for last on the sides and just ignore the guy. Other than that, I don't think a change of just making more enemies spawn and scanner or operator having more health is significant. With the addition of surges, this boss just got run over. But even without them, I think Atraks wouldn't be an issue at all. Where Atraks was the hardest was in the title requirement, as Godslayer needed platinum score for every triumph. So Atraks was annoying to get the score, but not great difficulty or changes, even if Atraks is one of my favorite bosses of all time. Number 7 is Oryx. Yes, even with another Shade, even with more Light Eater Knights, and even with a Tormentor during the damage phase, Oryx is just a pushover. Part of me wonders if Bungie decides to do another Pantheon, that Oryx would just miss the boat entirely. Because the hardest part of the encounter is just understanding the mechanics. War Priest would be hell compared to Oryx, and even though I have to commend Bungie for trying, and this list is very much built on changes and difficulty, it should speak to Oryx being that easy that he's here. In my original list on Twitter, which you should follow, I had Oryx much higher, but I've just ran the Pantheon so many times, and every time Oryx is treated like the loading screen. Number 6. If there was a boss with some decent changes, but not that difficult, it was Caretaker. Caretaker is one of my favorite bosses ever made, and ranked in my top 5 raid encounters for a reason. Caretaker is by all means a great fight normally, requiring all 6 players, but the changes and the difficulty both find themselves somewhere in the gray area. Sure, the room with new enemies like ogres and phalanxes, centurions, etc. make it tough, especially on the 2nd floor, but the bees in the runner room are rarely an issue and damage is still relatively the same. I will say that Caretaker is at least a tight platinum if your team struggles for a 2 floor of damage. But Caretaker is just an okay change. To be fair, this fight was near perfect already, so there wasn't really much to change. Number 5. Just like Caretaker, I have to give this next spot to a boss that was already great, but was definitely cheesy in the original version, and it's Riven. Riven is weird, right? Originally, this was thought to be the scariest fight for the final week of Pantheon, but it's actually one of the most chill ones because, well, everything helps if you understand the mechanic. Yes, the changes are literally to fix the cheese on the boss and add a ton of damage resist on the lower floors, so you can't 6-man it either. But all Bungie added was a couple of Minotaurs and Phalanxes. The rest was just trusting the mechanics to follow through. Funny enough, Transcendent Blessing and Taken Barrier all work in the Pantheon. But more than anything, Riven just has no health when you get up top, and by shooting pimples, you just do all of the damage, to the point that Saltagrepo told me he 2-man 1-phase Riven on this, because the pimples just take that much damage. Riven legit is my favorite encounter of all time, but it's clear Bungie wasn't looking to test the community on the knowledge of new changes, but instead, the knowledge of the original encounter, which is about what I expected, which is why it's here on the list. Number 4. Some good changes, but nothing that made it much harder, and a boss that was really already great before. We have Golgoroth. Golgy is everything a raid boss should be, and the changes are better than I expected for the first boss. Some new enemies to make things shaky for gaze holders was great, as now it's not just a waiting game up top. And 2 unstable light players in the pit made more risk reward for killing the boss. A bit more spicy, but Golgoroth is just not too hard, so I think this is a good placement for him. Number 3. Explicator. You know why, it's those tornadoes. So small of a change, but it made the impact much stronger. Also, getting platinum for 2-phasing damage can be pretty rough, because I just don't think most people understand how to do damage on Explicator. Not much else to say here. The encounter is a banger in Pantheon, and in my opinion, the 2nd most chaotic room. Number 2. The most chaotic room in the entire run. Nezzy. Nezzy, Nezzy, Nezzy. You know what? This clip is all you need to see.
What? What?
The changes here were pretty solid, if even simple, but I feel like the change of adding Tormentors going into damage is just not that effective, as they, once again, don't do really anything. You can just ignore them. The Colossus was a nice change to the ad clear, but the encounter still comes down to Nezzy, and if the AI wants to work with you. Sometimes you can cook him, sometimes you're his lunch. I think Nezzy would be #1 on the list if it was just about the difficulty, as he really became the final god of pain in my ass. But he's just not that changed. The arena changed more with the turnbacks than the mechanics themselves being tweaked. I will say that there is kind of 3 Nezzys if you consider the Tormentors baby Nezzys, but considering those can be ignored and Nezzy's AI is, yeah, he's still a dick even if he forced his way to #2. This is in my opinion a good spot. #1. You knew it. Rhulk changes kept the first half engaged, with Tormentors actually being something I wanted to kill each time, to drop ammo for my teammates and more. And the time incentivized to move faster with double swaps and double dunking. But the second half is chaos, and I don't think I can ever enjoy Rhulk the same way again. Pontiff Rhulkion, I love you, buddy. You're probably my top 3 encounters of all time, and I will be sad to see you leave. Final Stand is just perfect. Forcing players to learn the room is just perfect. I just love this shit. Hollow Knight's Pantheon did exactly what Destiny's did for me. It was the best version of all of the iconic bosses I came to love over time. But because I was tested to fight the harder versions, getting used to the new settings really made me step up my game, and I think it almost ruins the original fights in some ways. Guys, I can't go back to 1 Rhulk. I can't go back to normal loot. The game asked me to grind proper loot. The game asked me to treat endgame like true endgame. And goddamn, Bungie, you did. Now please, armchair player to devs that can make this happen, consider some shinies, remove crafting, and opt for enhanced adepts. Keep the challenge up, and keep building to god slaying. I loved Pantheon, and I know the whole community can tout it as one of the best activities you've ever made. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you guys are subbed, and I'll see you next time.
Holy shit.
Oh, that's one, guys.
Ah, great. GG's.
He just hit you with the yeah, great!
Good. 8, 7,
I'm unstable,
Unstable?
5,
Go.
Let me go.
3,
Go.
2, 1.
Wait, I deleted my other gun. I deleted my gun and forgot.
You delete a gun, not running, bro.